All righty. Can you hear me now, Donna?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Awesome.
Awesome.
We are
Okay.
off rocking here on Note Camp 6 with the original note buyer, the one, the only. She got started in this business at 5 years old with so much great stuff. Miss Donna Bauer here. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. It's noontime or 12:30 now, 1:30 your time, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we're all set to go here. I have my trusty Matthew helping me. You know, I'm not very good at this technical stuff. And
You're
I don't know if we're
perfect.
going to go back and forth from the PowerPoints. Do you like for me to do that, Scott? Or
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm gonna stop my video, but I'll be here to chime in just so they just see your face and then your slides. All righty?
oh, cool. So they can see them both. I don't have to worry about going back and forth.
Nope, they can see you and everything. We're golden.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm all set if you are. You tell me when.
You're good to go.
Okay. Well, I am Donna Bauer, as you know, and I am the original note buyer. I actually trademarked that name. Oh, I hate to tell you, but it was almost 30 years ago. So that's no joke. I am the original note buyer. When I got started, they used to buy discounted mortgages, and that didn't seem like so much fun. So I changed the name on it. And I'm sure many of you have seen Scott and I at different events and everything. And as you know, we horse around a lot and we kind of rib each other a lot. So I appreciate him having me here at Note Camp. And what I hope to do is show you a different perspective, okay? And as much as Scott and I horse around and I tell him, you know, oh, seller finance notes are better than the bad paper. The truth is that I do both. And
Hey, you know what? Nothing but love for you, Donna. Nothing but love for you. That's the beautiful thing, you know.
Nothing but love for you too, for real. I mean, I refer people to you and everything. And somebody wants to do non-performing notes, they need to hook up with you and learn from you. You're the king of the non-performing notes.
Oh, how wow. About that? Okay, I'm gonna owe you some money for that one.
So, but you know what I found, Scott, is a lot of times people get caught up in one thing and they don't realize there's other things they could be doing. And so today, I didn't want to give just my plain old regular presentation. I'm sure most of you have heard that. What I thought I would do, real quick, I pulled out a lot of different case studies. So some of the examples you might have seen before. But what I'd rather do is just show you some of the different things that you can do with notes. And because I think a lot of people just aren't aware of the flexibility. And even if you're really into the non-performing notes, I promise you, you're missing out if you don't do some of the seller carrybacks as well. And so I hope to make you a believer in the next hour or so, because I'm going to show you the fastest, easiest, safest way to make huge profits in real estate. And of course, that is with discounted notes. And you want to know how easy it really is. This is my nephew, Will, and I love to talk about him. He is a real entrepreneur at heart. And when he was only about 20 years old, one day he called me up and he asked me if he could have a copy of my book. And I sent it over to his dad at home with his dad. And do you know, a couple months later, he called me up and he says, Aunt Donna, I got a deal. I said, you got a what? He said, I got a deal, a note deal. I got somebody that wants to sell me a note and I got somebody that wants to buy it. And will you look and make sure I did everything okay? And I was kind of dumbfounded, And I thought, shoot, he did this without me. And then I realized it wasn't without me. He had used my books and my checklists and everything. But he actually made $15,000 on his very first deal when he was only 20 years old. He split it 50-50. So his personal net was $7,500. But that's how easy it is. If you have the checklist and the right stuff to back you up, it's so easy. And you really can make great money with the seller carrybacks. Now, here's another success story. And Scott, you'll like this. This young fella, Gavin Thomas, who's from Columbus, he was at one of my academies. And when he was 17, he won a note that we were giving away. Actually, it was Dave Van Horn that gave it away at my academy. And He won that note and he settled it. And at 17 years old, he made $4,500. Isn't that awesome? $4,500, 17 years old. That's how easy it is. So the big thing that people always ask me, they want to know, well, I can't decide. You know, I love the non-performing, but I'd also like to do the performing as well. Well, I think it depends on what your goals and your experience is. Without a doubt, I do believe that the non-performing notes, you can make a lot more money on them. In general, per deal, with the non-performing, there's larger profits out there. But for me, the reason that I'm not wild about them is that they take more time and they're much riskier. If you're just starting out in real estate, I would encourage you to consider maybe doing some seller carryback notes and get used to just notes in general. Get used to the jargon, get used to using the calculator, understand, you know, some of the background to the notes, and then venture out into the non-performing notes. And what's going to happen is you're probably going to want to do both. I mean, that's the truth. On the other hand, with the performing notes, you can still get great profits. And what appeals to me is that you can do it with very little time invested. And if you do it the way I'm going to show you here, it really can be risk-free. So if you're just starting out, I really encourage you to take a look at starting with the seller finance notes and then venture into doing the non-performing. In my opinion, the non-performing notes are best for experienced real estate investors. And the reason I say that is there's so many different exit strategies. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of them already from the speakers that you've listened to here at Note Camp, and you're going to hear of a lot more. So it's really good to have somewhat of a background in it. So when you get a deal, what direction are you going to go with it? If you're not familiar with it, you might not know exactly how you want to structure your deal. I also think that it's important, if you're going to do the non-performing notes, you want to have some backup money, because no matter how you plan, there are going to be some unforeseen expenses. Okay. And I also think that the non-performing notes are best for people who want to acquire properties. And quite honestly, that's why I buy the non-performing notes. When somebody sends me a spreadsheet of the non-performing notes, what I do is I cherry pick. I go through, and a lot of times I see notes that are available right in the neighborhood where I invest in. And so I'll make an offer on one or two notes off of the spreadsheet. And my purpose for doing that is to use that non-performing note as leverage to get the property. Okay. And I do teach that, even though I'm well known for doing the seller finance notes, I also teach the non-performing. What I do not cover is how to buy pools of notes. You definitely need Scott for that, for sure. But if you're wanting to acquire properties, a great way to do that is with the non-performing notes. And I also think that I've talked to so many people that they want to build a big business. I mean, they're going to go gung-ho. They want to put together a team of people, and they're going to, you know, really work with the big hedge funds and stuff and buy pools. And I think non-performing notes are awesome for that. Okay. You can really make huge profits doing that. I think that another thing you can do if you're just wanting to make some quick cash with the non-performing notes, if you want to do it, like if you want to get in with non-performing notes, but you don't want the risk or you don't have the experience, a really easy way to do that is just to flip the note. You can get it under contract, and without doing anything to it, not worrying anything about whether the homeowner is going to stay, whether they're going to move, just go ahead and flip it to an experienced investor. And I'm going to show you in a minute how you can use the simultaneous close or assignment of contract to do that, because you can use those with either the performing or the non-performing. But so if you're a beginner and you're wanting to do the non-performing notes, you might consider starting with just flipping them to somebody else. But my personal opinion is that the average person can make a lot more money with performing notes. And by average, I mean the people that don't want to go whole hog into it and put everything they've got into it. Maybe they want to go part-time, and they're just trying to avoid the headaches and the risk. And if that's you, then I would recommend that you really take a look at the seller finance notes. Properties are a steal if you use non-performing notes as a backdoor to acquire them. And that's what I was just talking about. For instance, I bought a non-performing note for, it was just under 15,000, okay? And I put about 30,000 into it. So I had about 45,000 in it, and now it's worth 85,000. So you can get great deals, and that's through the cherry picking off when I get a spreadsheet of non-performers, and I just choose which one I want and make my offer. And so honestly, I don't know of a better way to get such properties at such low prices. Okay, so the other question I get, the big thing is non-performers or performers, but the other thing is, which should I do, the notes or the properties? And that completely depends on you. Honestly, even though like I love notes, and that's been my forte for many years, it's wise to have a balanced portfolio. The fact is that you can get really amazing rates of return with the performing notes, but you're missing out if you don't have some of the real property, because you get tremendous tax benefits, you get the appreciation from the real property. So as much as I hate to say it, you might want some of each. And that being said, my son and I have bought a lot of properties in the last couple of years, and we've done that because of this, because I said, Ben, you know, we should have a balanced portfolio. We need to get some real property. I got to tell you, I like my notes better. It's just so much easier because you really don't have the headaches that you have with dealing with the real property. The reason that I love my notes over the properties is you never own the property. You have all of the safety of a real estate investment, but you don't have the headaches. And the key is that you want to control the real estate without ever owning the property. And so you don't have to deal with tenants, trash, toilets, and most of all, no bed bugs. I'm thinking if you've owned properties, surely by now you have dealt with the bed bugs and you know what a pain that is.
Amen to that. Amen.
What's that,
to
Scott?
that.
I'm sorry, I talked over you. What did you say?
I was just simply saying amen to that, Donna.
Yeah. I hate bed bugs. I don't want to deal with them. And the other thing is, now, Scott, you probably don't have any problem dealing with the rehabs, but I just am not a rehab person. You know, I don't like dealing with that. And so for me, the notes are much better. And you don't have to worry about building orders. You don't have carrying costs, no negative cash flows. And truly, you can get full-time profit for part-time effort. When I started out, I had a friend who had a master's degree, and she was working 40, 50 hours a week. And here I am with my 4 little kids, and I'm working off my dining room table part-time, you know, maybe 15, 20 hours a week, and making more money than she was. And that's my idea of having fun. And you make amazing rates of return. I mean, when I compare my real estate investments with my note investments, my gosh, they're not even in the same ballpark. And you don't need your own cash or credit to start with the notes. And so that gives you time and money to live your vision. I'm part of a mastermind group, and our big thing is that you need to determine your vision. You know, what do you really want for your life? And the problem is that most people are so tied up in working for money, okay, that they don't even have time to live their vision. You know, they're too busy making the money. And then if they do make the money, they don't have the time to live the way they want to live. So what I want to ask you is, which door do you want to choose? Do you want properties? I've had some properties that look like that. Have you? Or would you rather have door number 2? This is more like me. I'll take door number 2 any day of the week. Okay, now I really was not going to give my Sam and Bill example. This is it's just my standard example for people who don't know how to flip a note. But I realized that I'm sure there are people on here that don't have a clue what I'm talking about. So I'm going to very quickly go through my Sam and Bill example, and then I want to show you some real deals. And I want to show you some things that you can do with notes. Like for those of you who do have a lot of non-performing notes, and maybe you're working with those and seasoning them so that you can sell them as reperformers, I want to show you how you can recapitalize by selling part of your note. It's a really cool technique, and it will help you tremendously. So we're going to talk about some neat things, but just so everybody's on the same page, very quickly, I want to give you an example of how to flip a seller carryback note. So if you have Sam seller, and let's say he owns his own house free and clear, maybe we'll call it $600,000. And he has trouble selling it. And a friend of his encourages him to try seller financing. And so he puts it on Craigslist, and he connects with Bill Bauer, and Bill immediately falls in love with it. And let's say that Bill offers Sam $150,000 as a down payment, 10% interest, $4,000 a month. And then he says at the end of 10 years, I'll refinance and pay you off. You think that's a good deal for Sam? That's a pretty good deal, isn't it? Especially because he sold the house really quick, the first guy that calls up. And so that's one of the advantages. And one of the things that you can do when you're out marketing for notes is encourage people, if they have a house that they've been trying to sell and they can't sell, maybe you could help them to sell on seller financing and show them how it works and help them to create a note that if they season it for 3 to 6 months, that you might turn around and buy from them and cash them out. So let's say then that we have Sam, he sells this house to Bill for $600,000. And in exchange, Bill gives Sam $150,000 cash down payment, and then he gives him a mortgage for $450,000. That's our deal. Now, let's say that 2 years go by, and now the $450,000 is paid down to just over $443,000. Well, what happens if Sam needs cash? And what you need to realize is that people, they make plans, but life happens. They get married, they get divorced, they want to start a business, they want to go to school. I mean, all kinds of things can happen, and they need money right away. And so what you want to do is you want to be in a position when someone who has carried back a note like Sam, you want to be in a position where you can help him to cash out. So it just so happens that I sent Sam a letter here. Now, let's just take a break because people always ask, how do you find the notes? And I have like over 20 different ways in my home study course on where you can find the notes. But one of the easiest ways is to simply buy a list. You can buy a list of the Sam sellers in the world, send them a letter or a postcard. I've got a marketing plan all written up for you. You can just step right into that and use it. They'll call you up, and then you can buy the note from them. It's a great way to easily, quickly find the seller finance notes. So let's say that I sent Sam a letter, and immediately he calls me up because he's looking for $375,000 to start a new business. And so he tells me the whole scenario, and sounds like a good deal to me. And so I tell him, great, I'll buy your note for $375,000. So Sam sells me his payments. He was supposed to collect $443,000. He's still got $443,000 left on this note. But I'm going to buy those payments from him. But notice that I'm only paying $375,000. Okay, that's what the discount is. And you know, people, that I think that the term discount a lot of times scares people, They think it's some highfalutin thing. And what does that mean in that? Hey, it's like you buy it on sale. I mean, doesn't everybody like to buy something on sale? This note's on sale. I'm buying this at a discount. It's worth $443,000, but I'm only paying $375. Now, keep in mind that I didn't buy the house. Bill lives in the house, and his position doesn't change at all. The only thing that's going to change for him is he's going to send payments to me. Other than that, everything stays the same for him. So if you look at this, was this a good deal for Sam? Well, he got $150,000 as a down payment from Bill, and he's collected $96,000 in monthly payments, and I just gave him $375,000. So that is $621,000. How much was he selling his house for? Only $600,000. So do you think he's happy? He's thrilled. And let me tell you, it's not always about the money. What really drives the seller finance deals home is timing. When people decide that they want cash, it's like that commercial, it's my money and I want it now. And so when you're in a position to give them the money when they want it, you can get phenomenal deals on these notes. And here's the best part. It doesn't have to be your money. It can be my money. Scott, could it be your money? Do you buy seller finance notes? I don't know if you do or not.
Occasionally I will. Yes, it could be my money. Yes, ma'am.
But I'm sure there's lots of investors, even on this call, that it could be their money. I'll tell you what, private investors love seller finance notes. So don't worry if you don't have your own cash. There are plenty of people that will buy them. Institutions and banks will also buy them. So let's look at this from my perspective. Do you think you'd like to be in my shoes? If you'd like to buy a $443,000 asset for $375,000, then you better believe you want to be Donna dealer in this transaction, because I just built $68,000 worth of profit into my deal. And this is one of the things that I really like about doing the notes. Unlike doing a property, when you buy a property, you're hoping that it doesn't need a new roof and you don't have to replace all the electric or all the plumbing, and hopefully the carpet will clean up. Hey, you don't know how much you're going to make until you get the rehab all done and you turn around and sell it. But if you look at this and you're buying a note, you're building the profit in right up front. Worst case scenario, I'm going to make $68,000. And the truth is, if it defaults and I wind up with the property, I might make even more. And so this works out that I'm getting a 13.25% return on my money. So I want you to listen to this part if you're not familiar about the discounts. If I had $375,000 to invest in this deal myself, I'd be making 13.25% on my money. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, how can that be? Because Bill is only paying 10%. Well, what's so cool about notes is that when you buy a note at a discount, your rate of return goes up. Okay. So the day that I buy this from Sam, he has $443,000 of his money outstanding. And if I step in and I only have $375,000 invested, but I'm still getting those nice high payments he was getting, well, then I must be getting a higher what? Yield, or a higher rate of return, a higher interest on my money. And so you need to understand that the less that you pay for a discounted note, the higher your rate of return. That is the basis of making money with discounted notes. Okay. But then people say, well, that's great, but how am I going to make big money if I don't have the money to invest? Well, you're going to flip the note. Something that I learned early on was any time that you can put a good deal together, you can always sell it to somebody. It doesn't matter if it's a good deal on a performing note, a non-performing note, a car, a truck, a boat, whatever it is. If you can put the deal together, you can always sell it to somebody else and make money on it. And that's why flipping the note is a perfect way to get started. If you're brand new in the business, and if you don't have your own cash or credit, get the thing under contract or do a simultaneous close and just flip the note to somebody else. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. So if you want to know the secret to making money with seller carryback notes, this is the slide that you want to pay attention. In my opinion, this is the most important slide that I'm going to show you today, because this sums it all up. So you go and you get this note under contract with Sam Seller, and he has agreed to sell you this note for $375,000. Well, if you, and by the way, we did say that was, we got that under contract for 13.25%. If you had your own money, then you would be making 13.25% on this deal. Well, if you want to make money on the deal, the secret is that you find an investor who's looking for a lower rate of return than what you're paying. So I know I've locked in a 13.25% return for myself if I had my own cash to invest. But it just so happens that I was talking to a local real estate investor, and I found out she's fed up with properties, and if she could get an 11, 12% rate of return, she would switch to notes in a heartbeat. Well, at 11.5%, that means she would pay $410,000 for this note. Do you see? Is 11.5% less than 13.25? It sure is. And because it's less, that means she's going to pay more. So the secret to making, in this case, $35,000 is to buy low and sell high. Okay. And you do that by finding an investor who is looking for a lower rate of return than what you're buying it for. And what's really cool about this, it only takes about maybe 15 hours to put this deal together. And you could be putting $35,000 in your pocket. And it usually takes, on my seller carrybacks, I usually close them in about 3 weeks. I always ask people to allow like 45 days, just in case there's an issue with the title. A deal that I'm closing on Monday, as a matter of fact, a deal in Texas. There was just some real odd things about the title. It all worked out. I got copies of the deeds and everything was fine, but there was some question about it. And it took me an extra week to get the necessary information to make sure that, I dotted I's and crossed T's, and it's a deal that I wanted to do. So it's nice to allow a little bit of extra time in cases like that. Okay. And so the other thing that I want to mention here, I don't know if you're familiar with using a financial calculator or not, but do you know that you could do this deal and never even use a financial calculator? Because when you go talk to Sam Seller, pretty much they know what they want. They may not know what rate of return they're buying at, but you go and you get it under contract. Sam says he needs $375,000. You can get it under contract. And listen, I got weasel clauses in the contract that you can walk away. Okay. And so it's no problem to get it under contract. And then you can take it, call me up. That's what I do. I buy notes. But you can go to any experienced note buyer and say, hey, I've got this note under contract. What will you give me for it? And they'll tell you to the penny what they'll pay. And you don't even have to have your calculator, a financial calculator, to calculate the rate of return. My brother's a perfect example. He hates calculations, okay? But he sure knows how to get this under contract with Sam, and he knows how to take it to Irene Investor and say, what will you pay? And if you ask him what's your profit, you know what he'd say? Enough. What's your rate of return? Enough. And he's laughing all the way to the bank with $35,000 and doesn't have a clue what rate of return he got on that. Well, actually, he probably does in this particular case, because what is his rate of return? It's infinite, because he doesn't have any of his own money invested. So he has an infinite rate of return on here. So I hope you're enjoying this. This to me is like the easiest way to make money in real estate. And I hope that maybe this has been an eye-opener for some of you. And you can do this without your own cash or credit. Now, people are saying, well, that's great, but where did you get the money? Well, I'm going to show you right now how you can use Irene Investors money. So I don't know if you're familiar with a simultaneous close. Now, keep in mind, you can do these with the non-performing notes as well. Okay, remember I mentioned that if you want to do non-performing notes and you're not experienced with it, just flip a couple notes. Get used to dealing with the notes before you start investing in the non-performing and really take them on, to hold and to work out or whatever you're going to do with them. So the most common way, well, there's two ways. One is the simultaneous close, and it's the one that I usually use. And that's simply when you close two transactions at the same time and you use the proceeds from the second transaction to fund the first. So you would have Irene wire her money into the title company, the $410,000. Your title agent sets up two closings. And what they do is they realize, hey, you're going to make $410,000 when you sell this to Irene. They see that the money's already in their escrow account, so they don't need any money from you. And what they do is they take $375,000 of Irene's money and they close on the first leg of that transaction. So now you own the note, and the note that you just bought with Irene's money, you turn around and you sell it to her for $410,000, and that's when you pick up your $35,000 profit. Isn't that pretty sweet? Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, simultaneous closes are illegal or they're not allowed. Well, they're not allowed. It's not that they're illegal. Title companies refuse to do them if you're flipping a property. And the reason is because they've got caught up in a bunch of lawsuits and a bunch of fraudulent claims. But the thing is, we didn't flip a property, did we? We flipped a note. And I owned a title company. I had 3 different underwriters. They all gave their blessing to doing the simultaneous close as long as it was a note and not a property. So think about this. If you're thinking about buying real estate and you're trying to figure out how to use other people's money, maybe you ought to think about buying notes instead, because this is such an easy way to use other people's money. So the other way is to assign the contract. And if you've been doing real estate, chances are you've probably already assigned a contract on a piece of real estate. You get it under contract to buy the note from Sam, and you simply sell that contract to Irene Investor. And so Irene's going to write you a check for $35,000, and then she steps into your shoes and Sam sells the note to her. But what's the problem with that? The problem is that if you write her a check for $35,000, now she knows how much profit you made. And let me tell you from experience, I get thank you notes from my investors. And then as soon as they find out how much money I made on the deal, they think they left money on the table. It's human nature. And that's why 95% of the time I do a simultaneous close. I usually only do the assignment of contract if I'm dealing with somebody that I really know and they know how much money I make and they don't care how much money I make, that kind of thing. But either of those two ways will allow you to buy notes, either performing or non-performing, okay? And you can buy the notes and flip the deal without any of your own cash or credit. So one of the things that you need to look at when you're trying to decide what you want to do is, where are you in life? I mean, do you want to be Irene Investor or Ivan Investor? Or do you want to be Donna Dealer? If you have your own cash, then you're going to start out as Irene Investor and you're going to buy the notes. You hold them for your own portfolio and you do it because you want a nice, safe, high yielding investment. But on the other hand, if you don't have cash, or maybe you might have cash, but it's all tied up in other investments. Well, why sit on the sidelines when there's great money to be made? Just simply act as Donna Dealer. And the truth is, you can go back and forth on any given day of the week. If I have my cash available, I'm going to be Irene Investor. But if a great deal comes across my desk and I don't have money available, you better believe I'm going to sell it to somebody else. And so I'm just going to flip the note. I'm going to use other people's money, and I do it just to make a lump sum of cash. So look at this and decide where do you fit in here and which one of these would work best. I always like to tell about, this is one of my students, Phil, he's from Fort Collins, Colorado. To the best of my knowledge, this is the biggest profit that any of my students have made on a seller carryback deal. And he made almost $396,000. $396,000. How would you like to have that for your first deal? So think about this. If you got that deal and you made this kind of money, you could turn around and you could buy a $700,000 note. Okay. You could live off a part of it, or, you could do whatever you want to with it. But isn't that a great way to get started? So you make 396,000 here, or maybe you make 50 here, and you make 35 here, and you make 10 here, and you make 75 there. And then before long, you've got enough money that you can be Ivan or Irene investor. Pretty sweet, isn't it? Okay, so let's just stop here for a second and think about this. I've just showed you how you could buy a note at a discount and get a really nice rate of return. Now, I used a relatively very conservative example there. I said that you were buying this at a 13.25% return. The fact of the matter is that if you are doing your own marketing, you can routinely buy a note and you can get it for 20, 25, 30% rate of return. I mean, it really is pretty amazing. And the reason that you can do that is because most people, they don't even know how to calculate their rate of return. And all they know is they have this note, they're receiving payments on it. Maybe they were forced to sell a house and they couldn't sell it, they couldn't find a buyer, a cash buyer. And so the realtor said, hey, carry back a note. And they don't even know what a carryback note is. I will tell you, many times people have called me up and they say, I got this letter from you and it says that you'll give me money for my mortgage. What are you talking about? I mean, they literally have no idea that they could sell those payments for cash. And so when you call them up and you explain this, or, they've called you, they've responded to your direct mail or whatever, and you explain this to them, they're not going to say, well, what rate of return do you want? They're going to say, hey, can you give me $375,000 or whatever amount of cash they want? And when you put that in your trusty calculator, most of the time, you're going to find out that you can get a pretty hefty rate of return. And that was the case with this deal. This is one of my favorite deals. I got lots of favorites, but this is definitely one of them. And this is a sample. It's a real deal that one of my students, Rick, did. And a lot of you know Rick from my academy. He sent out the direct mail letters. And Miss Annie, she's from Texas, she called him up. Now, I love this because it's a great example of who your target market is. And it really drives home why this works. Miss Annie was the classic real estate investor. She was investing in real estate when women didn't invest in real estate. And for all those years, she started out with rental properties. Then as she got a little bit older, then she started selling them off with seller financing, just collecting the payments. And when she called Rick, unfortunately, she was very ill. She knew she didn't have long. And all she was looking to do was cash out so that her family didn't have to deal with the notes. And she told Rick, these are her words, not mine. She says, I've already made a boatload of money on this. Hey, if you can give me $80,000, we got a deal. I just need to close quickly. Remember I said that it's not money that drives the deals? So many times it's being able to act quickly. And so we offered her a little bit more so that she wouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I should have asked for more. So we bought that note from her for $80,475. And if you put that in your calculator, you'd find out that was over a 25% return. So if I had invested my own money on that, I would be making 25%, secured by this really nice single family home in Dallas, Texas. But this was one Rick's deal. And what I normally do with students is that we split the profits. We always flip it and we split the profits. And so I contacted one of my other students who I knew was from Texas, but what I didn't know was he literally lived a half hour from the property. You can call that a coincidence. I call that a God thing, you know? And so I called up Ivan Investor and I worked out a deal with him. And honestly, I could have sold this for $100,000 easily to somebody else, but Miss Annie was pressed for time and he was ready to move. And Rick and I both agreed it was better to get the deal done for her sake than to spend time finding somebody else. So we sold this to Ivan Investor. And get this, look at his return. Even buying it with Rick and I in the middle, he's making 17% on his money. I know for a lot of people, even with real estate investments, they're not coming anywhere near that. And none of us are dealing with the property. There's a really nice couple that lives in the property, takes care of it. They just send payments to somebody. So we flipped this to Ivan Investor. And Rick and I made, it was just under $14,000 by the time we took out our title and appraisal. So we both made almost $7,000 on this deal. And again, that's probably for 15, 20 hours worth of work. Never owned the property. I mean, never had to deal with rehabs, no bed bugs, no building orders, none of that stuff. I mean, this is my kind of a deal. This is why I've been doing this for 30 years. I totally love it. There is nothing else that I know of that I could do working from home, working when I want to. I'm really glad that people don't want to Skype all the time because they'd find me in my nightgown sometimes at 4 o'clock. Not because I'm lazy, but because I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and started doing deals, never bothered to get dressed. I mean, you know, what can you do? How often do you have that kind of luxury that you can just do whatever you want when you want to do it? And that's what notes give you, that opportunity. And let me tell you, I used to have a huge office. I had 7 people working for me. That's when we were running a pipeline of non-performing notes as well. And we had over 50 deals in a pipeline at a time, and we were rocking and rolling. And I will tell you, quite honestly, I always thought that that would be a sign that I had made it. You know, I got an office, I got people, I got peeps, as they say, you know. And I was so glad when I made the decision to close the office, because my life is so much better now. And the truth is, I make more money now. You know, I don't have all the headaches. I don't have all the overhead. You know, I love what I do now. And so it just depends on what your goals are, you know. So at any rate, I kind of digress there. But what I really want to show you about this is what happened with Ivan Investor. It turned out that Ivan Investor was an attorney and he specialized in helping people to improve their credit. So the night before we closed on this deal and sold it to him, we did a call with the homeowners that were making the payments. And I introduced them so they'd know who they were working with. And do you know that Ivan on the phone that night, he says, "Hey, how's your credit?" And she said, "Oh, my husband had some medical problems. And so we still have a few glitches, but we're working them out." He said, "Hey, if I can help you to get your credit fixed and help you to get refinanced, would you consider refinancing? Because rates are much lower than what you're paying right now, and you could save some money." She was thrilled. Well, let me show you what happened. This is a real deal. 3 months after I sold this to Ivan, I got an email from him, and he had helped the borrower to refinance. For his $95,000 investment, he got a $117,000 payoff. Put that in your calculator, and it winds up, he got a 96% rate of return on his money. Was that easy? We need one of those staple easy buttons. That was easy. Isn't that awesome? And And see, people think that they've got to have this very complicated. That was easy. Hey, you got one of those. I forgot that you had that. Thank you, Scott. That's exactly right, you know? And this is why I love to do the notes. People think that you need some very sophisticated, complicated structure, and you don't. To me, this is absolutely the easiest way to make high rates of return on your money. You buy a discounted note, and then you negotiate and get an early payoff on it. And anytime that you have to bought it at a discount. This does not work on a private loan where you just lent out the full amount. But if you have bought that note at a discount and you negotiate and get an early payoff on it, your rate of return goes up. And now the important thing about this, and Ivan knew exactly right, you have to immediately turn around and invest your money. You don't want to negotiate an early payoff on a 25% investment and put your money in a CD for 2% or whatever they're paying now. So it's important that you keep that money working for you. As soon as you get the early payoff, you turn around and you put it back out. And so that's how you really make your money grow. And it's so simple. And it's just inherent in in buying discounted notes. It's not something that you have to think up. You just have to do it. You buy a discounted note, you negotiate an early payoff, and whether you like it or not, your rate of return is going to go up. Pretty sweet, isn't it? You see why I love to do notes? So you might want to jot that down. When your discounted note pays off early, your rate of return skyrockets. Okay. And everything that I'm sharing with you here, it can be done in your self-directed IRA. So you can start with just $100, whatever you need in your IRA. It does not have to be a lot of money. And everything that I'm showing you here, you can do in a self-directed IRA. Okay. This is a deal that I did a long time ago, but it's still a sweet deal. And it really opened my eyes, or helped. It wasn't the first deal that I had a higher rate of return from an early payoff, but this was certainly one that made me aware of it. This was a note on a property in Florida. I bought it. I locked in the high rate of return. I negotiated the early payoff, and my rate of return went really high. I bought 39 payments. And I split the balloon. So I bought $14,000 worth of a $25,000 balloon. My investment was $10,300. And that worked out. Again, 30% yield to maturity, 30% rate of return on a little $10,300 investment right off the bat. And you can routinely get 25% or more when the key is that you have to find your own deals. If you're going on a website and you're looking where people are marketing, then you're going to get market rates. If I had bought this, if somebody had posted it on a website, I probably would have only had a 10% return on it. But the key to getting these kind of rates of return is to do your marketing like I teach you, where you're finding, I call it virgin paper. It's not been shopped all over the place. And half the time you really do have to explain how it works. So 8 months later, when this paid off, I made $6,000 on a $10,000 investment, and my rate of return jumps to 88%. Those are the kind of deals I like to do. Now, this is another deal that I did in my self-directed. I did not do this. This was Kurt's deal. I had taught this method because I had done a deal very similar to it, and I taught this at my academy. And Kurt just made up his mind that he was going to do this deal. And so he called me a couple months after he left the academy. He said, Donna, I got this deal under contract. Do you have an investor? And so he had found this woman who was moving to Europe, and she was divesting of all her real estate. And so this was actually a brand new note. There was no seasoning on it. Someone bought this house for $71,000. The note was written 180 payments, and the woman sold it for $46,000. And so what we did here, I called up one of my institutional buyers. And because it was a brand new note, they didn't want to buy the whole thing. but they said they buy 100 payments for $50,000. Do you see what happened there? I'm buying the entire note for $46,000. They want to buy just part of the note, 100 payments for $50,000. So right away, Kurt made $4,000 right up front. Okay. And then Kurt's IRA gets to keep the tail end of that. So Kurt's IRA buys 180 payments. Kurt's IRA sells 100 of those payments for $50,000. This was a deal I set up for him, but this was all done in his IRA. And so after my institutional buyer collects 100 payments, those last 80 payments are going to go into Kurt's self-directed IRA. So he's putting $50,000, almost $50,000 in his self-directed IRA, and he doesn't even have any of his own cash or credit invested. He made $4,000 up front, and he'll collect about $45,000 on the tail end. Now, theoretically, he would not have his own cash or credit invested, but he did this in his IRA. And what's really important for you to know, if you're going to do these in your self-directed IRA, your IRA has to show consideration. And so in my documents, I have in my Note Buyer's Master Guide, I have a special clause that you can add to your note purchase agreement if you're doing this in your self-directed IRA. And all I do is I pay the note seller $100 earnest money. You can pay them $10 earnest money, whatever you want to give them. But when I send that direction of investment up to my trustee, I have them send the note seller $100 earnest money. That is the consideration. And so then my IRA will buy the note. Then my IRA sells the note or sells part of the note. And when your IRA can flip a note is what I'm trying to say. And whatever that profit is going to go right in your self-directed IRA. Or you could do just like this deal and just sell part of it, in which case you get a little of both. It's like have my cake and eat it too. You can make $4,000 up front, and then your IRA will I should have said your IRA will make $4,000 up front, and then your IRA will keep those last 80 payments. Isn't that pretty cool? So can you imagine just doing this? And I don't have time to get into it now, but it is very easy to keep the tail end of a note, and it barely affects what you can sell it for now. So even if you can keep half a dozen, 12 payments, it's always a good idea to do that, because most of the time these notes pay off early and you're going to get a nice lump sum that you don't even have any of your own money invested in. It's like manna from heaven or something. This is one of my favorite structures. You're probably sick of me hearing me say, this is my favorite, this is my favorite. What I did was I got all my favorite deals and put them together for you. Now this, I think that a lot of you are really going to appreciate. As I mentioned earlier, if you have been buying the non-performing notes and then restructuring them, and you want to season them so that you can turn around and sell them for more money as a re-performing note, you're going to love this. Because the problem is pretty soon you run out of money, right? Because you can do these faster than you can season them. So just like I showed you on that last deal that Kurt did, that's called a partial. Use a partial on these notes that you have that you're trying to season. So let's say that you bought this note and you restructured it. And so you bought the note for $40,000. You restructured it at 360 payments of $733.76, and you've got $40,000 invested in it. You could turn around and you could sell, say, 115 of those payments for $50,000. Do you see what happened? You can pull out all of your money out of the deal. And let me tell you, if you want to get high rates of return, the key is to get your money back out of it as quick as possible. I mean, shoot, you have an infinite rate of return if you don't use any of your own money. But a lot of times you got to put your money in maybe for a month or two, you get it all worked out. And now you want to pull that money back out as quickly as you can. That's what's going to allow you to really maximize your profits. So let's say that you sell 115 payments for $50,000. You're going to make $10,000 up front, and then you keep the last 239 payments for yourself. That's over $175,000. So if you have been selling these at a huge loss, like a lot of times people have notes and they think, oh, I got to sell them, I need cash quick, and they take this huge discount. It's not necessary. You don't need to take a huge discount. Just sell part of the note. Only sell enough to cover whatever monies you need for right then. Wouldn't you rather keep this last 175,000 and get it sometime in the future rather than lose it all together because you just just sold it very quickly for hardly anything? So this will help you to recapitalize. It's really a great way for pulling cash out of your reperforming notes. Okay, does everybody see that? Scott, do you ever do that?
I'm sorry, say that again. You were asking me. Yeah, I've sold some partials. Yes, I've used that to recapitalize on some of our performing stuff that was once non-performing. So it's a pretty good yield for sure.
Yes, and it allows you to get your money so you quickly, so you can turn around and buy some more non-performing notes.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's so important for people not to be hung up on either or, because when you start doing notes, you're going to want to do both the non-performing and the performing. I mean, you could be totally focusing on non-performing notes, but look, this is a great way that you can use some performing strategies.
Well, but the whole point of buying non-performing for me isn't really the real estate; is to get it reperforming. That's the whole aspect of it. I don't like vacant properties for the most part. And so I love your strategies here because it's phenomenal way. Because a lot of times we pick up stuff that is occupied, get reperforming, boom, use these strategies to help out with recapitalization and rinse and repeat.
Exactly. It's really a great strategy for getting your money back out so you can do more deals. Okay. Now I want to show you how to maximize your fix and flip profits. Okay. And that's by doing the partials, just like we're doing right now. So let's take a look here. Let's say that you have borrowed rehab money from a private lender. Okay. And then you go to sell the, I don't know what happened here. You sell the rehabbed property with seller financing. You got the property all done, and now you want to go to sell it. But most people think that they have to sell it for cash so that they can pay off the private lender. Well, you don't have to do that. You could use a wrap mortgage. I don't know if y'all know about a wrap mortgage. That's something I teach. I didn't put those slides in because I didn't have enough time. But a wrap mortgage is where you'd leave the seller finance note in place. Like, let's say you have a seller finance note for $60,000. And you turn around and you sell the property and you've got a $100,000 note on it. So that 100,000 wraps around the 60,000. So they make payments on the 100, and then you turn around and use that money to make the payments on the 60. That's called a wraparound mortgage. Or another way to do it is when you sell the property on a seller finance note, sell part of the note to pay off the rehab loan. Okay, it's exactly the same thing that I just showed you on these last couple of deals. So, and you can even pull out some cash for yourself. Okay, and you can also keep some of the profit as passive income. This is the have your cake and eat it too. Get some money now, but also keep your money invested, some money invested in the future. Okay, so the idea is that if you need money, you can turn these notes into cash. But why take a huge discount and get all this money, and then you don't even, what are you going to do? Leave it sit in a bank account? Whereas if you just sell part of it, it keeps the money that you don't need, it keeps that invested and you keep earning money, interest on that. And the interesting thing, which I'm going to show you in just a second, is because you're just buying part of the note, you get a much better deal. And you don't have to take as high of a discount. The more of the note you sell, the more risky that is. The higher the loan to value, the more risky. And so investors pay less for it. But if you just sell part of the note, you get top dollar for those payments. And so it makes sense. If you don't need to sell the whole note, why not just sell part of it for top dollar and keep all the rest of the money invested, earning some nice interest for yourself? So this is a sample that I made up. And then I want to show you an actual deal that Debbie did. And I don't know, Debbie might even be on here. She's one of my friends from Columbus. But this is the principle here. So this is how you could maximize your fix and flip profits. So let's say that you have this house. It's worth $70,000 and you carry back a $70,000 mortgage. Now you could sell, excuse me. If you go to sell this whole note, okay, and I get that you're probably not going to sell it for, you're not going to finance it 100%, but I did that just so it's easy to see the calculations. If you sell that entire note, an investor is going to say, hey, I'm not going to invest more than 70%. They use what we call investment to value. And they say the most that I'm going to invest in this deal is $49,000. So that means that's the most you're going to get. Even though it's a $70,000 note, the most any investor is going to pay, let's say, is $49,000. On the other hand, so that's a $21,000 discount. So keep that in mind, $21,000 discount. What you could do then at this point is you can pay off the $40,000 rehab note, and then you've got $9,000 left to put in your pocket, right? So you took the $21,000 discount. Now watch this. This is a much better way to do it. Instead of selling that entire $70,000 note, just sell, let's say, $56,000 worth of it, okay? Well, now because you're only selling part of the note, now an investor will buy it and they'll use loan to value. They'll say, hey, as long as I'm at an 80% loan to value or less, then I'll buy this note. Well, if they're going to go up to 80%, that means you get $56,000. You've only taken a discount of $5,600. I think I did not say that right. You're going to sell $56,000 of payments. They're going to give you $50,400. And so your discount is only $5,600. Okay. So you're keeping that $14,000 on the back end. Before, that was all part of that $21,000 discount that you lost. And again, wouldn't you rather have the $14,000 later on than not at all? Man, I sure would. So do you see then that you could pay off the $40,000 and you put $10,400 in your pocket now, and you have $14,000 on the back end, which means that you're making an extra $15,400 just because you did it on a partial. I know that's a little bit complicated, so I want to restate what we did here. When you carry back a seller finance note, instead of selling the whole thing, which might cause you to take a huge discount, consider selling just part of the note. You will take less of a discount, and you get to keep the tail end of the note instead of just giving it to some investor to collect later on. And in this case, instead, you made an extra $15,000 just by the way you structured the deal. Pretty sweet, isn't it? So this is Debbie's deal. And interestingly enough, I went up to Columbus RIA and I was talking to the landlords group. And I was showing this example. And the funny thing was that day, Debbie, I had talked to her about this, and it's the same deal that I was all prepared to show that night. So it was neat to see an actual deal that somebody was doing. She was in the process, and this has already happened. She actually now has sold the house on a land contract. The terms were $79,900, $15,000 down payment. She financed $64,000 on a seller carryback note at 8% interest, 180 months. The payment was $620. And there was an underlying bank loan of $45,000. So it had a very nice loan to value, which is 64,000 divided by 79.9 gives you 81%. Now, she could have very easily seasoned this note for 6 to 12 months and then just turned around and sold the whole note. Needs a little bit of seasoning. Seasoning is collecting payments, so you know, okay? You need proof of pay history. And the more pay history that you have, good pay history, on-time pay history, the more you'll get for the note. And so if she wanted to get top dollar, she would season it for 12 months. And then when she sells it, she would get top dollar. But still, she's going to get top dollar for that type of deal. Let me show you. If she seasons that note, and she turns around, and let's say an investor will buy it for $57,380. That gives an investor a 9.84% return. She pays off the bank loan. And so she's just now pulled out $12,380 in cash. Plus, she's already got the $15,000 down payment when she sold it. So her total profit in this deal is $27,380. That's if she seasoned the note for 6 months and sold it. Everybody with me on that? Now watch what happens. Well, first let's talk about why would she do this? Why would she even carry back the seller finance note to begin with? Because she can sell the property a lot quicker. Think about it. If you're selling a property and you're only going after people who are cash buyers or who are qualified for a loan versus you're willing to talk to anybody. I mean, I don't mean that literally, but there are a lot of good people out there that may not qualify for a bank loan or may not have cash, but would be great buyers and that would pay you on time. And so the seller financing really expands your target market. It allows you to sell the property much quicker. So a lot of times that's you can also get a nice rate of return on it. I think I just lost something there. There we go. Okay. But what if Debbie's goal was to build future monthly cash flow? This is great. She cashed out. How much did we say she made? She made $27,380. She cashed out. But maybe she didn't really want all that money right then. What if she really just wanted some of that money? Well, sorry. What if instead she just sells 110 of those payments? Okay. And at a 9% return. So that means an investor, can you see right here, an investor is going to pay $46,343 for just 110 payments. She pays off the bank loan for $45,000, and so use the rest for closing costs. But the important thing to see is she's going to keep the tail end. She's going to keep the last 67 months of payments right here. So she's going to keep $41,554 worth of payments plus the interest on them. Okay. And she's got her down payment. So now her profit is it's over $56,554. but compared to if she had sold the whole note, she would have only made $27,000. So she made almost double by only selling part of the note. Who would have thought? Who knew? You know what I mean? Isn't that very interesting? And that's all because of the time value of money. It's just amazing when you structure it right. What you're doing is you're selling off the most valuable part where people will pay top dollar for it. And then the back end of it that's not so desirable, just keep that for yourself. You know it's a good deal. And I'd rather collect it later than not at all. Scott, how am I doing on time?
You've got about 12 minutes left.
I better talk fast.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to open it up for questions?
We got a couple questions here real fast. Yes. So let's see here. Saki asks, does the AOM need to go through the dealer in your wholesaling case, or can there just be one AOM from the investor to the seller?
Can you repeat that, please?
Does the AOM, the assignment of mortgage, need to go through the dealer in your case, or can there just be one assignment of mortgage from the investor to the seller?
Okay, on a simultaneous close, there will absolutely be two assignments. You always have an assignment to you as the middle person, and then another one to your end buyer. Now, if you're doing, if you don't want to do that, you can do the assignment of contract. That's not the assignment of the note. You can assign the contract and you can have your end buyer buy directly from Sam Seller. But no, when you're a middle person, you need to have two assignments.
Great. Awesome. Anna says, Donna, first starting my love of notes. Lots of love, Donna. Anna Lawson.
Awesome. Oh, great.
Somebody anonymous says, this lady is the master crafter note buyer. Yes.
Thank you for that.
Sandy Quinn says, in a wraparound mortgage, what happens to first position, second position? Who's in what?
Oh, that is a great question. If you have, let's say you have a $40,000 first, and you sell the property and you wrap it with $100,000 wrap. That $100,000 is $100,000 mortgage is in second position. Once you record a mortgage, and if it was in first position, when that's recorded, it's going to stay in first position, except for perhaps if the taxes go in default or something like that. But as far as regular liens and mortgages that come after it, you can't lose your position. So sometimes people, I now wish I had my slide up, but if you have a first of 40 and then you have a second of 100, some people consider that 140% finance, and that's not true. What you have to keep in mind, that 40 like is this, and then the 100 goes around it. It encompasses it. And so what happens is the $100,000, even though it's in second position, you're going to collect the money on the 100,000 and just pass it right through and pay off that first. And you can very easily do that. You can set up a joint checking account, or you set up one checking account and let the other party see it. So everything is very transparent of the payments coming in and the payments going out. There's lots of little tricks like that you can do. And I'm sure somebody's going to ask this, what about the due on sale clause? Well, first of all, I don't know. I have never personally ran into where the bank has called a note due because it was transferred. I'm sure it happens sometimes, but it's not common. Shoot, the banks want you to pay. They don't care who's paying, you know? Again, I don't want people to go say, Donna says it never happens. I'm sure it sometimes does, but it's definitely not the norm. But what we do is I have a really good wraparound mortgage addendum, okay? I definitely would use that. I think that you need to be well aware, if you're participating in a wrap, that the bank does have the right to call it. And even though it's likely that it will never happen, if you aren't in a position to come up with financing and pay it off, whether it's a private loan or whatever, then maybe you shouldn't do a wrap, because you always need to know where you stand on things. I would not be afraid to do a wrap because I'm confident that it's not going to be called. But if I happen to be wrong, I can easily go get a private loan and pay it off. So a wrap is fine with me. But if you're not in that position, then maybe a wraparound is not the best thing for you to do.
Exactly. Let's we gotta need to wrap it up, Donna.
Okie doke. Okay, well, I'd like to share with you my home study course that I've put together. I want to offer that to you. I hope you've enjoyed what I've talked about, and I hope that you can really see how there are so many different aspects of note buying. And even if you have been focusing on the non-performing notes, might be time to get your feet wet with the seller carrybacks and the performing notes, because it's good to have a variety. Okay. And I think you're going to love when you actually do some deals and you see how truly easy it is and the amazingly high rates of return that you can get. I think that you're going to really enjoy it and start doing a whole lot more of the seller finance notes. So I have a complete note buyer system, and it includes a multitude of things. There are three main manuals, and I have these in hard copy, and I also have them online. You can get the digital version. So if you like to watch on your Kindle or, on digital, you can do that as well. The first one in the main book is the Note Buyer's Master Guide. I'm not sure that I said that right. Scott, do you know about Kindle?
I don't do anything in Kindle, so I'm not familiar with Kindle. Sorry.
I don't do that either. I need to make sure I don't want to misrepresent anything. I will give you a PDF of each of those manuals, and whatever device you use to read them, that's up to you. I don't know that it's readable on a Kindle. I don't think so. I don't have a Kindle version. Anyway, you're going to get the hard copy and you're going to get the digital version of the Note Buyer's Master Guide, and it's about 350 to 400 pages. And it is the most comprehensive instruction on note buying that you will find. I'm a very detailed, thorough person. I like everything all in order. I believe in systematizing things. I have the checklist you need. It comes with all the forms that you need for both the good paper and the bad paper, okay? The checklists are huge. I have special worksheets that make the calculations so easy to do. All of that is included in your Note Buyer's Master Guide. And I also have CDs that go with, well, it's not CDs, it's a thumb drive, a flash drive that you will get. And also the audio classes are also online as well. And then I put out this little red book, Making Dollars and Cents with Your Financial Calculator. And everybody loves this book. I mean, they tell me that one book is worth the entire price that they paid for the Master Guide. I love numbers. They just intrigue me. And so I have set up a certain way that I do all my calculations. I've got it all systematized. I've got the worksheet in there. And I take you, even if you've never used a financial calculator before, I can have you up and running and doing calculations in no time at all. Whether you love the calculator or you hate it, you will love this book because it can make it really easy for you. But at the same time, it opens your eyes to some of the really neat nuances of using the financial calculator. I also want you to have my smart seller financing, especially for all of you landlords. If you own properties, you need the green book, the smart seller financing book. And here's the thing. People think that they can just slap a seller finance mortgage on there, download it from the internet, put it on there. Don't make that mistake. The value of a note is determined when you originate it. The terms that you use, how you structure it, the documents you use, that will determine how much money you'll get for it later if you want to sell it. And that's why if you're thinking of doing smart seller or doing any seller financing, you're going to want my smart seller financing manual. And again, all these manuals, you'll get them in hard copy plus in digital copies. I've got lots of bonuses for you as well. You're going to get my audio classes online. You're going to get the forms are all online. I have a whole day of from my academy on the teaching on non-performing notes. So if you want to see how I do my workouts and that kind of thing, that's all on there. You've got, I mentioned the audio classes. I've got a special report on, think about this, how to buy a property with no money down. Okay, no money out of your pocket, but you're still going to give the seller cash at closing and maybe even walk away with some money yourself. I'll just give you a hint. It's that partial. You sell part of the note. Amazing way to do real estate deals. Also, as my student, you get first dibs on my deals. So whenever I'm selling my notes, I always offer them first to my students. I will also, you'll also have funding with my investors. That is if we're partnering on a deal together. And I need to say something here. Scott, I changed my offer.
Okay.
Thanks to Sue Nelson.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue. I heard your close and I went, uh-oh, I need to step up my game here. Okay. So what happened was, the truth is that I quit offering my coaching program just because I mean, I got 5 deals I am closing right now by myself. Okay. And as one person, it was just getting to be too much. And so I haven't been offering it. But I've decided, Scott, for anybody from your note camp, I will give them 3 months of free coaching. In fact, I'll make it 6 months. And this is not even on my slide, because like I said, I just decided to do this. So I am going to give 6 months of my easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching. How does that work? You follow what I have in the Note Buyer's Master Guide, the marketing. And it doesn't matter whether you want to do the direct mail, whether you want to network with people, which honestly is the best way. You can get notes from mortgage brokers, realtors. You can get them from financial planners, from builders, developers. There's all kinds of places to get notes, from real estate attorneys, divorce attorneys, probate attorneys. And however you decide to do your marketing, when you find a note, you fill out the submission form and you email it to me. And once I get that note, that's when the coaching starts. Okay. I need a real deal to work on. And I will walk you through the whole deal. Remember, I showed you Rick's deal. That was an example of one. I walk you through the whole deal. We use my investors. Okay. So you don't have to worry about coming up with an investor. And when we close, we split the profits, the net profit, we split 50-50. Okay. So I'm going to offer that. And it's not even on the slide, but I'm going to include 6 months. Everybody's my witness. 6 months of my easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching, as long as you buy through this weekend. So this offer is good through Sunday night, and then it's off the table. So you're going to get all of the audio classes, all of my library of forms. It's over $10,000 worth of materials. And I sell this on my website for $14.97. But if you go to thenotebuyer.com/Scott and you use the passcode Thanksgiving18, you will save $500 and you can get it for only $997. It's really everything that you need to start doing the seller finance deals. You can be putting $10,000 in your pocket in the next 30 days. If you are looking for a way to make quick cash, I don't know of a quicker way. If my kids were in trouble and I needed to come up with 10 grand like yesterday, you better believe I would find a note and I would flip it to somebody for $10,000. You saw those were real live deals that I have done. And on the average, a seller finance deal usually takes about 15 to 20 hours. And you can make amazing profits. And what is so cool about it, I wasn't joking when I said full-time profits for part-time efforts. I mean, you think you can work half the time that most people do and make a whole lot more money than they do if you learn how to do the seller finance notes and the performing notes. So I encourage you to get started on it. And don't forget, you want to go to thenotebuyer.com/Scott. When you put in that passcode, that's how I'm going to know that you got the 6 months of the easiest 1, 2, 3 coaching. And people will tell you, if you, I can't even put a value on it. I used to sell that for $5,000. And the fact is that it is priceless, because when you focus on, you put all your focus on finding the deal, and then you send it over to me. From that point on, I'm going to close that deal. I'm going to walk you through it. And if that deal is closable, we're going to do it. Together, we will get that deal done. And so my goal is to get you to close one deal. If I can help you to close one deal, you will be on fire and you'll go, man, this is the greatest thing I've seen. Truly, it is the safest, easiest, fastest way to make money in real estate. So I hope you'll take advantage of this. Again, go to thenotebuyer.com/Scott. Your passcode is Thanksgiving18, and that will save you $500 off the retail cost. Plus, you will get my 6 months of easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching. I hope you will do it. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to helping you to close deals right away and make some money. And I want you to start living your vision. Note buying can help you to do that.
Awesome stuff there, Donna. It is case sensitive, everybody, just so you know that.
No, it is not case sensitive.
/Scott, and then it's Thanksgiving18 where the T is capitalized. So it's,
you don't even have to capitalize it.
All right. Okay. All right, cool. Well, awesome, Donna. Thank you so much. Amazing offer. Great presentation. Lots of great positive comments from people out here. Once again, everybody, thenotebuyer.com/Scott. Discount code Thanksgiving18 to take advantage of that special offer.
Thank you for having me, Scott. You rock.
No problem. We'll see you later, Donna. Okay. You got to run here.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.